Okay, I am currently 36 years old. I came into this body 23 years ago when the body was 13. I am a star seed walk in. I mean, I don't know the names I've seen, there's many. Um, I was fully conscious when I came into the body, meaning I felt what it was like to die and be born.
Susan, I know this is not your real name. You want to keep your identity protected, and we fully understand that. And I'm very grateful that you're joining us on the show today. So I'm just going to hand the floor over to you, and you can just give us a bit of background about who you are and what it is that you're sharing today.
Okay, I am currently 36 years old. I came into this body 23 years ago when the body was 13. I am a star seed walk in. I mean, I don't know the names I've seen, there's many. Um, I was fully conscious when I came into the body, meaning I felt what it was like to die and be born. I felt the soul come in and the soul leave. Um, it was terrifying. It really jacked me up for a long time. I've never shared my story publicly, and there's a lot that goes with it. It was extremely traumatizing for something so highly vibrational to come into something so dense. It really, really threw me off. Um, I was young. I was only 13, right at the beginning of high school. So the switch wasn't very noticeable to the people around me. My parents were concerned. I didn't know who they were. I would sit at the dinner table and just look at these people like, who are they? I recognize them physically, mentally. I had very clear recollection of that I knew them, that I had feelings for them, but I had no clue who they were. I would just look at them like I didn't know where I was. At first, I thought it was a simulation. I thought I could get out. I would sit there, even at school, and just feel the walls, the table, the desks, constantly just looking for a hole to break out. And it took me about 3 months to realize I was really stuck here, that I wasn't getting out. Um, yeah, I just learned who I was through meeting people. They come up and talk to me, and I see them, and I'm like, ooh, I like this person. I like this person, and I just kind of learned the details of my life through everyday experiences. It took a long time for me to understand what had happened to me. I ended up telling my parents that I had smoked some laced weed and was having a flashback. And my parents, being naive and unaware of things like that, just like, okay, they just agreed with it because they didn't know what was wrong with me. I mean, they didn't understand it, neither did I. I had no idea. I just chalked it up as something really weird that had happened. And I just kind of fell into life. And yeah, it wasn't until about 13 years later that I started to wake up to what had happened. I have memories of where I was before. Now, with everything that's been going on with the planet, which I'm sure most of you are aware, I've gotten lots that has came back, memories, experiences, past lives. I've had some very interesting, out of this world, supernatural experiences since all of this. But it took a while. It was a lot of just waiting, not understanding. And I don't know, is there any questions you have for me? I would love to answer. You
I
want to
love
know.
questions.
Okay.
So you said you had a near-death experience at 13. What happened at that stage?
Well, it wasn't really a near death, which is the weirdest thing about my experience because I was just sitting there at my friend's house. We were just hanging out. And it was her choice, the original body's owner, which is actually just a soul fragment of myself from the future who grew this body for me so I could come in and basically remove the quote unquote veil in one lifetime. Most people incarnate over and over and over again to slowly remove. And I was like, I'll do it in one life, just send me down there. I'll get the veil off. And so first attempt was in the 70s. It didn't work out the way it was planned. I came in from birth, killed her too soon, and had to come back. That was the only two times I've been here since Egypt, if that makes any sense. That
Yeah.
was the last time I was incarnated, and then I was gone, working off planet, and came back in the 70s. Didn't go as planned. So the deal was to have basically a body that was better prepared to withstand the process. Um, so I came in and she left. And I'm still in very close contact with her, quote unquote. Um, I have memories now of very brief memories, I guess, of right before I came down, but I was fully conscious when it happened. And it wasn't until after I graduated high school that I started having the traumatic experiences, car accidents, near death, um, literally dying, coming back, being brought back. Um, and even that, I mean, it wasn't until, you know, 9 years later that I started to even start to understand what all these experiences were. I used to jump. After my car accidents, I had a traumatic brain injury. I was in very, very bad shape. I used to jump. I'd go have other lives in totally different places. I'd leave and go have these other lives, and then come back to the exact point, exact time that I was. And I would always have to one time I left and came back, and when I got back, I was running around the house looking for a picture of me just so I could compare it to and make sure that I came back to the right body. There was other times when one time I was driving, and I'm not sure exactly what triggered it, but its frequencies, and I mean they have a whole document explaining the, what do they call it? I'm trying to think what they call it. Gateway experience. And I was really vulnerable at this point in time, and I think that's why it was so easy for me. Now I'm pretty much quarantined here, and I can very rarely get out of here unless it's for like a, a meeting, I guess I would call it. But I would just jump around and go have these lives and come back. And one time I came back and my car was stalled out at an intersection on like a busy street in the town where I lived, and the police were there, and some lady, I came back and I was like looking in the mirror, and I was like, oh, and I looked, and this lady was standing there, and I looked at her, I was like, oh, it's me. I was like, I'm back. And she just looked at me and didn't even know what to think. And I turned, and the ambulance was there, and there was cops there, and I got out of the car, and I was like running around the car trying not to let them get me, and they were trying to get me in their ambulance. And it was just, every time I'd get back, it was just, I was really out of sorts for a couple days usually. But the experiences, they shifted through time. A lot of like the places I went started to change more to like off, not so much as a multi-dimensional, but more of like an off planet or out of system area, space, as you might call it. So it's been a wild ride. It really has.
Sure.
I've seen a lot. Definitely. I was on the phone with NASA at one point. They were begging me to tell them how I do it. Just tell us how you do it. The lady told me, my dad has spent his entire life trying to figure out how to do it. Just tell us how you do it. I told her, I said, I don't know. And even if I did, I wouldn't be able to tell you, the process is it's built within us.
So if you came in at that stage, then we'll just go back a bit. If you came in at that stage, if you obviously don't have any memories then, unless you spoke to the other person who's left to find out what is it that formed you, who are you in the society?
Well,
or do you kind of integrate?
I have. So, okay. Back when I was, 26 to 30, I was from here to Las Vegas to California, back and forth. I was working very heavily on the Earth grid. It's basically the grid that makes up our planet program on an energetic level. There's pressure points throughout the program that a lot of them in California. And basically you can tap into those certain areas and shift, change, and reprogram that it will eventually resonate through the entire planet. I call it a program, but that's what I'm referring to as the planet. So I was doing a lot of work there, stuff that I wouldn't really see until, say 4 years ago is when it really started to take shape. A lot of that's been put on hold right now because of certain unforeseen events that have been tipped off by free will. We have the future is always changing because of free will. So you can never really count on anything. There's certain things that are basically will eventually happen at some point, but nobody really ever knows when. Nobody can ever really give a specific time. because things are always changing. So I was I was working heavily on that for a long time, and I feel like that is my was my purpose. Right now, I'm on a leave of absence, having a very human experience after all that. I mean, it was very intense for those 6 years. I mean, extremely intense. 4, 6, yeah. It was. So,
Okay. And
okay, sorry. Did I answer your question?
kind of. I was actually just wondering, like, if you've walked in and the other person has left or the other soul has left, is there a way that you communicate? Like, is there integration that happens? I know they say
Yes.
when you have like an organ donation, then the
Right.
person takes on those traits of the donor. But
Okay.
sometimes there's like a mismatch of energy, and then it causes just like this disease or dysfunction in the body. Do you have any of that, or is it just a total switch?
Oh no, there was a lot of disease for a long time. Very, very strange feelings and uncomfortable, like just extremely uncomfortable. That's the word that comes to mind. It was just very awkward and weird. I didn't understand it. The thing, so I had all of the body's physical memories. Um, like when I saw things, it's not like I was complete amnesia. Like I recognized people, but I was like, I don't really know this person, but I recognized them because the physical body and the brain was all there. So that was very confusing, extremely.
Yeah,
Um, it took a while to integrate, really, to like really start to, and even then, it was more just like I was completely detached from the spiritual side of it and just like fully engrossed in the human experience because that's now all that I knew. You know, I didn't know, I wasn't, it took me a while to get memories back of why why it happened. I remember, the only thing I remembered is right before I fell. And I say fell because it is like a falling sensation in a sense of like densifying and like being brought down. Um, I just remember it, since it was her choice when to go, and I was just like, oh, now? Oh, we're doing okay, And I was like, no, wait. But then it was too late. It was already happening. And it wasn't for a while before I mean, she's always there because she's me from, and your higher self is a
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
So it works just like that, basically. I mean, that's what it is. So there's that, and when, I mean, and there's a way to merge with your higher self, and there's also a way to, be separate from your higher self. So that's how it works.
yeah. So you've obviously learned how to work around being in this body now and make do with what you have. And, are there any other people that you can identify or that you know what to do, what's next? Or is it just something that you kind of get a download and say, right, this needs to happen? Because it can be very lonely and isolating and people don't know what on earth you're talking about.
Yes. Um, yeah, it's been tough. I've met a lot of people, especially through my travels in my 20s, that it was like soul family or people that like would literally see me and could call me out by my spiritual ancient name. Um, all that's being erased, though, all the duality. But back when this was going on, it was very prevalent. And I've had, yeah, people call me out. And so I used to get downloads pretty heavily, and then I'd go to the next step. It would take me all over in the desert, sometimes doing pretty serious work with the energies, uh, the moon, different stars, planets. And I was basically just being used as a catalyst or a battery to transmit energy. And it would, when it first started to happen, it would really mess me up. It would put me out for weeks. I felt like I was electrocuted, my whole body. It was really hard on my body. And I'd have to fast for days sometimes in order to receive those energies. And it was really hard on my body, but it would come in. Sometimes it would come in very fast. Other times it was like kind of like a couple days leading up to it. Um, it just kind of depended what work I was going to be doing. If I was going to be reprogramming, if I was going to be integrating, if I was going to be transmuting, whatever type of energy work it was would just kind of depend on how it would come in and how it would transpire throughout that time.
So you obviously are, like I knew when I did past life regression that I'm a light worker, and I've never heard of that term before. What would you call yourself? Would you say you're like a time traveler or a planetary traveler? Is there a word that's come up around that?
I mean, I've tried to label it, I've tried to put some label like, oh, people have told me, oh, you're a star seed, oh, you're this, oh, you're that. And I mean, like the time traveler thing is kind of just coming out now as like being more widely acceptable. And I
Yeah.
have traveled in time. So I would say I have something to do with that. Um, I've had some pretty profound time altering experiences in this reality, not even um so because okay, time is weird. It's very easily manipulated because it doesn't really exist except for in the program. But you can't it doesn't work the way we've been shown in the movies and the way that you would want to logically think that it works. Um, so you can't travel time in the same timeline. If you travel time, it has to be outside of that timeline. You have to jump to another timeline. You can't actually move on your timeline, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
So you have to jump to another timeline and at the same time in another timeline. So um, yeah, I've done some stuff like that. I've been on spaceships, so I could be like I don't know, like a space traveler, time traveler. I do energy work, so I do light work. I know many different energy modalities in which to use to transform, transmute, recreate. Um, so I guess I'm a little bit of all of that, really. I I do a lot.
Yeah, and I was just curious because I know the RP, or maybe it could be more like an interdimensional being that, it's almost like traveling between dimensions.
Not so
I,
much anymore.
yeah, so and now here's the thing. So if you can't control it and you're driving in your car, I mean, that could put your physical body at risk because you're not there. Yes, yes, it might be in an instant here because you just jumped the timeline and you got back. But I mean, here you are, you're stuck, and there's ambulances and police. That can be pretty scary. Do you think it's something you could learn to control over time, or does it feel like you almost just went absent, or you got pulled somewhere? How did that play out? How does that work?
Well, back when this was going on, it was more my higher self, I believe, doing the controlling and the pulling and the kind of, and like other higher dimensional beings, it's kind of one of those things that's like you're going to wake up regardless what it takes, but you're also very protected. And
Okay.
so, it's these very traumatizing experiences that they're almost like it's like a controlled experiment in a sense, or it's controlled, even though it's like I feel like there was no control at the time, but it was being controlled somewhere. Once I started to get a handle on it and like really understand how to do it and what needed to happen in order for it to, I guess, manifest, I had a lot of like very high level experiences and meetings and places that I would go. And then it was pretty much uh, quarantine to the planet, take a leave of absence. Oh, now you have a kid. Now you have a reason you can't leave because I probably wouldn't come back. you know, um, once you know what's outside of this prison, in a sense, there's there's not a lot of reason to stay here and deal with this.
Yeah, well, Earth is a very dense school. I think that's
Yeah.
what people battle with the most is that lack, that disconnect from who they are. So, okay, so would you compare it to something like astral travel? So I know a lot of people are able to do it. When you sleep at night, you leave your body anyway. But to be doing it consciously, would you say it's more along that kind of line? Or is it something else? Is it like you are still there or you've left the body?
Yeah, like it's okay. I would say Ash. Yeah, I mean, the experience is very different when I would have experiences where I would astral travel or like, I mean, when you're, it's way less traumatic when you are astral traveling, I feel like, than the experiences I had when I would actually leave and be like, pull out of like feel, I mean it's essentially the same thing. You feel your soul or your energetic being actually pull out of the density in which you reside, so you can, and so I feel like that is slightly different, which I have had those experiences. I feel like that is slightly different but very similar because it's the same sensation in the body, but then when you hit the Hertz field and be sucked through a tube of like purple, white, bright, brilliant, crazy light, and then like force pushed into another dense reality, which maybe isn't quite as dense as this, but similar. Um, that moves a little faster or maybe a little slower, depending on the dimensional vibrational frequency of that specific zone. And so, I mean, yes, it is similar. Um, Lots of different experiences, just depending on where you're going, what you're doing, what the objective is in that situation, what the lesson is, what your spirit is capable of perceiving. You're going to perceive things differently depending on where your level of awareness is.
Yeah.
So,
So does it feel like there's that other life of yours happening over there and you're kind of jumping between them? Or is it that they're coexisting at the same time?
it used to be very jumping between them, bouncing back and forth, and it was really hard when I was here to be fully grounded and engaged because I was so far over here getting downloads, getting messages, literally existing on this different plane while I was physically here. And then when I would sleep, I would just be there. Like
Okay.
doing all this. And now it's definitely slowed down. Like I said, I'm taking a leave of absence and I'm having a very human experience. I have my children and, a home and a place that I'm like residing where I was just kind of floating around for a while doing all this crazy, like light work, or that's what they call it, right? When you're messing with the light, I guess. Lots of different lights. Um, so yeah, it was like that for quite a while. It's a little bit more, I'm a lot more grounded now, having my children. And
So how is that experience now for you? How is it to be being human?
I, I mean, I miss the craziness and like the cool experiences and like the supernatural magic of it all. At the same time, I know it's still there, and I keep getting told that I will be working again. So enjoy it. Enjoy it.
You're on holiday.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, when's that gonna? And then I don't even know when it's gonna happen, but I remember the feeling of like, oh, time to go, time to work, time to, do your crazy. So I'm just enjoying it right now and, having my children and just, when I sit there and miss it. And sometimes it's frustrating to me because I try to get back there and it's like, um, nope, like, nope, you can't come into the office right now, kind of thing. Is kind of how it feels to me. Like I'm suspended in a way, not really suspended because I didn't do anything bad, but just like take a break, do this. The stuff that I worked so hard on is all taking place and happening now. All the things that I did and all of the work I put into the planet and to, the everything and like spreading my light and doing the different things I did. It's all like happening now. Things are trickling down and and so I'm just kind of sitting back and like letting that happen. And, everything that's going on right now, like I told my mom 14 years ago was going to happen. And she's like, you're crazy. You're on drugs. My parents literally thought I was on drugs for a long time because I was so out there. And, I told her about the banking system and all the different things that were going to happen with the everything that's going on. I mean, I could really get into details, but again, that's why I have my face covered.
Yeah.
So I've had like one of my good friends of mine is in the quantum financial banking system, and he I could really go into details about how we met and how crazy and spiritual and weird it was. I was walking around Hollywood Boulevard with a crystal ball, like on a full moon. It was just really strange. And he parked his car and ran up and found me and was like, "Oh, I had to come up here. I knew you were up here." It was just very bizarre. And like, he's a much older person, and he's white hat, I guess. And him and I went to eat that night, and he basically disclosed all kinds of things to me. And one time he called me. This was a year or two later after I met him. He called me and he's like, "Hey," this is when I was in Colorado. I was staying at my mom's, and he said, "Hey, me and da 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 are in town. We're coming into Colorado. We have some stuff we want to talk to you about." I was like, "Okay." And so they asked me, they're like, "Where do you want to go? Like, we're gonna come pick you up." I was like, "Okay." Because they were in Denver at the airport, and I'm like in Boulder area, in Colorado. And so I was like, it's kind of far. They're like, "No, it's fine. We're gonna come get you. Where do you want to go?" I was like, "Well, let's go to the strip club." So I took these guys, and they're like these very nerdy, like conservative guys, and they came and picked me up, and we went out to the strip club, one of my places up here that I know some girls I went to school with at work. And so we went up there, and it was funny because they were very awkward the whole time. But they sat there and told me everything that was going to happen with the banking system and what was going to happen with the dollar and things that haven't even happened yet and things that have happened. And when they came to pick me up, it was funny because they showed my mom all their credentials and all their cards and all their, different things to prove who they were before they took me. And I mean, it's a real deal. Like they're the real deal. And they told me this stuff, and it's just so bizarre watching it all unfold now and watching all the things that I did for so long just come into fruition. And I'm like, whoa, like, because it took a long time. I was like, what was all that crazy? Like, what was that? Am I ever going to see anything happen from all that? Or was it just like to humiliate me in front of mass amounts of people across the West Coast? Because that's really what it was. It was a huge humiliation some of the time, some of the things that I was doing. And just like I would get these downloads, and it was like I didn't have a choice. I had to do it. No, didn't matter where it was, who it was in front of. I was getting it done.
So what did they say about the banking system, or you're not allowed to share that?
Just well, that there's okay. There's a few things I can say. So there is so much gold, diamonds, valuable stones, things that we don't even know about that, can literally create time travel or off dimensional experiences off planet, these powerful rocks and just things that are actually worth something, not just paper. Assets that are like just beyond your wildest dreams that have been taken off planet, that are being hidden. The Along with a lot of other like what do I want to say, like the Vatican, for instance, is not the real Vatican. It's been taken off planet long time ago and is being held somewhere else. Um, yeah, there's rocks, stones, huge, massive crystals, Numerian crystals, um, that are being held other places that have been taken off the planet just to keep safe for, I mean, the bad guys are trying to get it all right now. They want it all. So they told me that there was going to be a release of these assets to distribute. That's still in the works. I'm in contact with him often, and I mean, they are just pushing so hard, but there's so many things that have happened. Again, we actually had to create a whole new timeline to hold things on and move things because, again, free will, people have just made bad decisions. And, it's very tempting, the things that, I don't like to say Illuminati because that's a fake made up word. It's a word that they took from the luminescence, which was the light beings that came down here, and they tried to shift it into this Illuminati to give it a bad vibration or frequency, or like create this discord between the, um, I guess, thought vibration or verbal vibration, of the good. It's just been taken over by all this bad stuff. And so I don't like using the word like Illuminati or cabal, but technically those people, or beings, I don't even know if they're people, but those beings, um, were, had to do a lot of things to counteract their you know, acts, their evil things that they do. We've had to do some other stuff that wasn't really necessarily planned, but is now having to happen to sorry, I'm trying to translate all this into English because English is technically not my first language. So although I have it all in my head, it's hard to really verbalize it in a correct way. So I'm doing my best.
Appreciate it. So if they're doing that and they're releasing it, is it because I saw the other day they had a pyramid that was carved. I think it's some kind of rock, and I don't understand what that rock is, but it's not from here. And they're finding more and more of this stuff. Is that just because it's being released back again? And now we're able
Yeah.
to see it, or was it always there and it's only now been made public?
Um, yes and no. I mean, yes. Basically, it's always been there, but like for instance, like I said, hidden on another timeline or hidden in another dimension. It's things that are like now being able because the vibrational shift and the pulling together of the timelines and the way that the um, things are like starting to align back or align together, I should say, not necessarily back, but like come together. It's becoming more like, you know, like how sometimes you lose something and you can't find it and you have no idea where
Yeah.
it is and you in one place like 15 times and never seen it, then all of a sudden it's in there and you're like, what the heck? I looked right here so many times. Why? You know, it's kind of along the lines of that, the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of think that because they're discovering so many things like these ancient trees that are mountains and the giants and all that stuff that's always been around, but it's just been hidden. But yet it's been in front of us.
Right.
You know, it's like, no, that can't be. That's not possible. Then you suddenly realize, well, that actually was a tree. It's not a mountain. Yeah. And even the pyramids that have been buried across all the
Yeah.
places in the
I was
world.
actually just looking at that yesterday and yeah, I was just reading about that yesterday. I was like, wow, like, oh, now they actually can see what it is, you know, and this whole time it's just been being looked over as
So
something.
here's the thing. Yeah. So you've had this experience, and of course, people will think you're crazy because it's one of two things. You're either nuts or it did happen. And there's no way of telling. No one can go inside your brain and look inside to see. But if there's an ability to access, and you can say, yes, I did see the future, or whatever, this is what is over there, and then people see for themselves, then they're able to kind of start putting two and two together. But it's like making that leap of faith. How do you cope with those people that laugh at you or, because obviously you're not looking for attention. Otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here with your face covered because you'd want people to get the attention, not the other way around.
Right. You know, it's just I have a lot of acceptance for people and where they are in their journey and where they are in their you know, I don't even want to say this word, but ascension or, you know, or
Yeah.
enlightenment or, you know, whatever. So I'm very careful with sometimes um, I will, I, okay, I practice alignment constantly. And that's not alignment to your truth or to my truth or to his truth or to their truth. It's the universal truth. And that's what I always do is align to the universal truth. So if there's things that need to be said at a time because it's going to spark something in somebody, then, you know, that is in alignment with the flow and the harmony of whatever's going on. Or, you know, there's a lot of things that I can't say that I'm not permitted to say. And so I, with other people, you know, it's just like if it's their time, it's their time. And if it's not, I'm not going to try to force anything on them. That's a lot of people are trying to do that right now, and it's very out of alignment because there's not a lot of people that are really permitted to speak the way they do. And when they start throwing on the internet and they're throwing out times and dates, and it's just like, I just roll my eyes at it because I'm like, they don't really know. And they want to give times and dates. They're going against the universal laws by doing that. And that's why a lot of stuff is so jacked up right now. And we've had to switch and turn so many things around because people are revealing stuff that maybe they shouldn't be, or maybe they're giving wrong information. And I know that kind of goes off topic, but I'm just thinking like in a very broad view of like different people and how I deal with all the nonsense. I really just have to kind of disconnect from it and just there's people that think I'm crazy, and that's okay. They're allowed to have that opinion. I would probably think I was crazy too if I didn't have the experiences I've had. And I did think I was crazy until I started having more, what do I want to say, like the experiences were so supernatural for so long that it was like cray cray thoughts. And then when they started becoming more like, real, like having the conversations with NASA or meeting people from, coming and knocking at my door in a warehouse that I was staying at in the middle of Burbank, finding me there somehow, and, being from the CIA or, the different organizations like that were like basically looking for me. And I had, I mean, there was times I was in Vegas one time leaving. Usually I would drive back and forth. One time I was leaving the airport in Vegas and I had this man come up to me, and he was in like a tan uniform. He came up to me while I was on the phone talking to my mom. He's like, "Give me the phone." And I looked over at this man and I was like looking at him. I'm like, okay, he's not a cop. Like, yeah, I'm like, no badges, no name tags, no, any kind of markings. And but he had two guns. And I was like, just looking at him on the phone with my mom. He's like, "Give me the phone." And he grabs the phone from me. And I was like, what the? And I turned around and looked, and this literal EMT team, like this medics came out with a stretcher, and there was like four of them, but they were like in these makeshift, like, I was on movie sets and stuff out in Hollywood, so I kind of know what fake looks like. And they were in these like makeshift uniforms, and they come out, and this lady just like slams me with like, I don't know, 30 cc's of ketamine and just like puts me out. I mean, literally just, and I woke up in this weird like makeshift hospital room. They told me I was on a 72-hour hold. I was like, why? And I mean, was I? I don't know. I was really jacked up when I woke up. They had me strapped to the bed. They had me catheterized. I have no idea why. I have no idea how long I was in there. I have no idea what they did to me during that time. They would not let me out of this place. And I didn't, I was just like in this crazy house, or I don't even know what it was, but I started talking to the guy who was like one of the nurses. I think he started to realize like, this girl isn't crazy, like, why is she in here? I don't know what they did to me before I got into this nut house. And it was like days. I was supposed to be at the airport. I never showed up for my roommate to pick me up. My mom didn't know where I was, anything. And I talked to her like every day, I mean, the last she heard from me was me like getting my phone taken away, at the airport. And so this guy ended up calling my roommate for me and having him come pick me up and snuck me out of this place. And I think he was probably fired afterwards. Honestly, I don't think he understood like what was going on. He just was like trying to help me. And I went back with my roommate. It was the most awkward thing is I was in this place for so long. I didn't even know what was going on. And finally, when they let me out, I just walked out, and I was in the middle of the hospital, like in the waiting room, like this big open room. And I was I turned around and looked, and there was nothing behind me, no door, nothing. And I mean, my heart just dropped. And I saw my roommate, and I was like, let's go. We have to get out of here now. I mean, I was like, what the hell was that? And so he got in the car, driving home, and I was like, let's just get to the house, you know? I just want to get home. I just want to be safe. I was freaked out. And we got there, and there was like unmarked cars parked outside of our house for a week after that. Weird people, like makeshift bums walking around with like, they weren't really homeless people. They were like literally like actors with shopping carts that were empty, just walking around up and down the alley. And I mean, weird, weird stuff. I could tell you so many stories about some of the experiences out there, but yeah, I
So
don't
is it,
know.
are they watching you? Are they, how do they know? I mean, is it something like you almost feel like they've got these psychic spies through remote viewing or something? I think it's something like that.
So they have a machine. I mean, the technology they have is so beyond what our knowledge is, or what we could even imagine exists. Like the technology it took to create this that we live in is so far beyond what you could even comprehend. Um, the math, the science that's outside of this. We think we know it all here, but like the science is so far beyond our understanding, you know, and the
Yeah.
technology they have is so far beyond. But they have machines that can pick up frequency. So, like right now, I'm like I said, like my light is very dim compared to what it was because I'm like on vacation or I'm like hiding. And so
You're undercover.
so my light is dimmer now, so they can't pick me up as well. But I'm sure they know where I am. You know, I mean, how could they not?
I'm sure.
They they're tracking all of us through our,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
um. So I mean, I feel like right now I'm less of a threat to them because I'm not doing things like this. I mean, this is the first time I've ever spoke publicly, and who knows what's going to come of this. I mean, I don't even know, but I felt compelled to talk to you and to share my story with somebody other than my mom. And I don't even talk about this with like my kid's dad and stuff. He's very human. That's what he's keeping me very human with
Yeah.
his
So,
his humanness is keeping me very human. So
well, the thing is, you are here. You might as well be present. You know, often say, what's the point in coming here if you're not going to actually be fully here? Because then you kind of lose command over yourself. But that whole scene sounds like a scene from the Matrix. You know, it's crazy. And where did the Matrix come from? I mean, it obviously is something they don't make this stuff up.
okay,
It
now
comes
okay.
from somewhere.
So I have to tell you this story, which this even goes further out there. So one time when I was out in California, I was had one of my buddies come over and was doing some body work on me and helping like release some stuff, because I was just a mess. Like I was going through, I had like all this crazy like what do they call it? Morgellans or something, like all this weird like
Yeah.
nanotech pouring out of me, like pouring out of my face, my arm, everything. Like that. It was just crazy, like all this stuff coming out of me. And he was like coming over and doing some body work on me and helping move some energy around and stuff within my body. And I was feeling really good. And I had like this huge hole in my face with like all this stuff coming out because it would like always be like on pressure points because it like basically the way that manifests is they have the machine, they send out these sound frequencies. And when these sound frequencies hit like certain light frequencies, they basically create like a block, and it's like a physical block on like a pressure point or like a meridian or something in your body that like literally will completely alter the way you function, the way you think, the way you breathe, the way you talk, the way you perceive life, everything. And so I had these all coming out, and it was super painful, and it was like really traumatizing to my body because
I'm intrigued. So the morgellons, Is that what they said to you, or is that what they planted in you? Is it something that happened while you were in one of your?
I think everyone has them. I think I possibly had more than some other people because I was like heavily, heavily blocked my entire life from not knowing what was actually going on and like what I was capable of. But so I was in the shower. This was after this guy was working on me, and I was feeling really good. So I was like really high vibrational, like really happy. And I was in the shower, and I had this huge hole in my face because the stuff was all like, sorry, oh, don't. Okay, so the stuff was all like coming out of me. And I was in the shower and I was washing my hair and stuff. And all of a sudden I saw this thing come out of the shower. I'm not even joking. It was like this thing came out and it went, and it like sucked into my face and like, and like my whole eye went all blurry and I could like feel it like in, and I was like freaking out, right? I jumped out of the shower. I was like, and I could feel it like in, and then it like went down and like went into my stomach. I was like, and I was freaking out, unbelievable. And I had this like voice came over and it was like, calm down. And I was just like, I was like, what is this thing? He says, it's divine. I'm like, it's divine. I was like, what is this thing gonna kill me? Like, what is it? I have nothing divine can go rogue. And I was like, okay, well that makes sense, right? But I was like, well, what's it gonna do? They're like, it's helping you, darling. Relax. And that was it. And I was like, so this thing's like in me now? And it was some kind of like alien technology that was put in me to help heal me and make me better. But it was freaky and scary. And so I was like, well, how long is it going to stay in me, until the job is done. So I'm like, okay. So then it was like, okay. So I had this thing in me and I was like, all right, well, I can't really feel it. I don't really understand what it is. But like when it first came up and like went over my eye and like blurred out my eye and I could feel it, like, anyway, so I'm like, how's this thing going to come out? And they're like, oh, you'll see. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. Well, it was in me for years. And one time I came home after a show at Red Rocks because I love music. So I used to like go up to Red Rocks a lot and like listen to music and stuff. And I came home and I was feeling pretty good. And I was just hanging out, kind of decompressing from the show. And I started coughing and hacking like out of nowhere. Like, have you ever had those cough attacks where you're just like, what the heck? And it's just like asthma or something. I don't even know. So I was coughing. So I got in the shower. I started coughing and like hacking. And I mean, like, to the point where like I almost thought I was gonna like just like cough up a lung or I'd like die because it was just so intense and painful. And all of a sudden this thing came out of me. It was like this thing and it like had tentacles and it was like, and it like came out and it fell on the floor in the shower and I was like, and it was like this clear like squid looking like weird like tentacles, but it like had like this metal little spring and little thing in it, but the rest of it was all clear and kind of like translucent, and it was laying on the shower. And I mean, it had to be this big. And I freaked out. I was like, I jumped out of the shower. I was there with my buddy. He was in the other room, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, you have to go see this. And I was freaking out. And so he went into the bathroom, and he came out of the bathroom and was just like, he had seen a ghost. And he just sat down. I was like, did you see that? He was like, yep. And he's like, got his phone and went back in to take a picture of it, and it was gone. I don't know how it was gone or where it went, but it like that was like Matrix stuff right there, right? It was really weird, and it had like cut my throat on its way out, like part of it. But yeah, that was like Matrix stuff right there. I mean, that was probably one of the weirdest things, like top 5 things that's ever happened. But he saw it. Somebody else saw it, and he knew it. And that's what he's like, well, he just said, you're not from here, so what do you expect? Yeah. I'm like, well, not anything like that. But I'm assuming it was the same thing that went into my face that one day.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it is, because they said you'd know. when it comes out. And it just happened to be in the shower at the same time as well. So you mentioned morgellans. So for those people who don't know what morgellans are, how would you describe that?
Um, it's like alien technology or some kind of, maybe not alien, but it's some kind of like technology that isn't from, it's not organic technology. You know, it's something that was created or brought here. It is very abrasive and very painful and very, it really does just control the person. It controls the way you see life, the way you feel, the way you can control emotions, the way you digest food, the way you know, brush your hair, the way you brush your teeth. I mean, it controls everything about you in all these little senses that's not in alignment with your divine blueprint. It basically just completely alters your DNA, your blueprint, how your body is supposed to function daily. And when it comes out, it's like a relief. Like all of a sudden you
Is
feel like different once you pull a certain one out off of a certain pressure point or wherever it's been blocked.
is there a way to remove them?
Yeah, you can. Okay, so me, I would do like diatomaceous earth baths. I would bathe in it. I also drank DMSO, which I'm not a doctor and I do not.
No, I take DMSO. And I was actually, one of my videos was banned because I did a video on DMSO and YouTube said it goes against their guidelines.
Yes. And I don't think you're supposed to drink it, but I did. Not a lot, but a little bit, like about an ounce. And I mixed it with minerals and a bunch of other stuff. So it was like very easily carried throughout my body. But it started pouring those things out like I'd never seen. I mean, I was literally passing them through my bowels and urine. Like you
Oh,
could see the shadows of them on the toilet. I mean, it was, and um, when they come out, it's like very traumatic to your body because all of a sudden your body's like, whoa, I didn't know we had been living wrong this whole time. And so they have to come out in waves. And so it's painful, it's stressful, it's annoying. They take a long time to pull out. I still have little pieces coming out every once in a while. I'll find a little piece coming out like here or there or somewhere, but they usually live on pressure points or like major um, like energy, I want to say pathways. And yeah, it's a real thing and it's pretty intense and everybody has them. I mean, they create them. It's like a machine. They send out frequencies and they like harden into these weird.
yeah,
And there's
actually, I
also
interviewed someone a few months ago and she was coughing as well. And she showed me a photograph. There was blood, but there was worms. And these things looked like little fibers that were moving. And she
yeah,
had a video where she showed me how these things were moving. And she said she's coughing this stuff up. And she had a near-death experience, and no one would believe her. And she said she could remember getting taken by aliens. And she woke up on this like operating table. And they said to her, you're not supposed to be awake. You're not supposed to be here. And then she woke up back in her bed again. And since then, she'd been having these attacks and also people following her, people in brown suits watching her.
no faces.
A lot of people. Sure, she just said it. It's people from the government, and they're plain clothes. And she had a feeling that she was in some kind of an MK Ultra program because she was taken with a bunch of kids. I think she was about 10 or 11. and she can't remember that year, but she knows that she had had an abortion or a or something had happened, but she's never had children. So there was some weird stuff going on there, and she was very young. But
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of different stuff on a lot of different levels that we are just their product, basically. And there's a war over us and the
yeah,
technology that it took to create us because we are like extremely valued technology. And there is the good guys and the bad guys. It's not even good and bad. It's just um, evil and divine, basically. And so, um, people are starting to want my attention badly right now, but I need to do this for myself. So, yeah, that I mean, absolutely. I when I was a kid too, like what I don't know what kind of process they were doing to have my body like prepared for me in this life to come into it when I was 13, but I know it was traumatizing as hell, and I totally understand why people go unconscious in order to have their soul exchange because it is like really traumatizing to the physical body what it feels like. But I remember when I was a kid, yeah, I used to wake up with earaches, horrible earaches, and blood all over my pillow, and like all this like ectoplasm or like weird white crusty stuff around my ear and everything and stuff like that. So yeah, I absolutely think that
yeah,
I believe in all of that. 100.
yeah. And that's the thing, because nobody else does. No one understands it, and no one can give you answers. So you're kind
Right.
of like on your own until you realize I'm not alone doing this. Everybody is having these, well, not everyone. There are people out there having these experiences, and they match up too closely. And you don't
Right.
know that lady. She doesn't know you, but yet you have the same type of experience. So how is that? How is that not made up? Yeah. So I won't keep you. I know your kids are looking for you. I really thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's been hard, and I'm very grateful. Is there a message you'd like to share with anybody, with our viewers, before we go?
Um, just I don't know. Just do your best to live in alignment with your truth and your divine, presence, and don't be malicious and just do the right thing. You always have to do the right thing, and that's huge. And I if everyone could just live like that, the world would shift on like a much faster level.
Yeah. Yeah, because ultimately, they always talk about being authentic, but ultimately it's just about stop trying to fit in with what other people's plans are, because your higher self knows what's best for you in the long run, and you're just fighting it.
And that's what, like, I mean, if I would have, there was lots of things that I didn't want to do, but I had to do in order to better myself, and it was humiliating, and people would just stop caring what everyone else thinks and just worry about what's going on with them, because it's not about anybody else. And that's why I tell my 4-year-old all the time, it's not about them. Don't worry. Do you like your outfit? Well, then why do you care if anybody else likes your outfit? I mean, that's on like a pretty uh, superficial level, but just
Yeah,
an example
that's
is
right. Well, then she's lucky to have you, because you've been there, done that.
blessing and a
Yeah.
curse, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, there's a reason you came here. So, well, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a long time and it hasn't been aligned. So I know it was a lot of information and it was kind
No,
of jumped
I
around.
like all of it. I think, people need to know, and there might be somebody out there that also has experienced something like that, and they think maybe they are going crazy, or maybe they've been told, or maybe they've been locked up. Meanwhile, I'm sure they would know better, because they would be a higher soul anyway. But maybe
Yeah,
for those people also that are doubting them.
Right. Yeah. Whatever you feel you want to use, I mean, you can use all of it.
Thank you
It's
so
up to you.
much. I hope you have
All
an
right.
awesome day.
You too.
I'll catch up soon. Okay, dear.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.